Welcome back to our channel where we dive deep into the incredible world of rare coins, astonishing numismatic finds, and the mind-blowing stories behind everyday currency that turns out to be worth a fortune. And today's story is truly one for the ages as we delve into the amazing and almost unbelievable tale of the 1993 1-cent coin. A penny that by all logical expectations should be worth no more than a single cent but instead shocked the collector world and the general public alike when one of these humble coins fetched a staggering $12 million. Yes, you've heard that correctly, $12 million for a penny. And we're going to break down exactly what makes this particular coin so unique, so outrageously valuable, and how a combination of human error, mechanical imperfections, minting mistakes, historical anomalies, and collector demand turned this tiny piece of copper-plated zinc into one of the most talked about and sought-after rarities in modern numismatic history. And before we dive into the deep and fascinating details of what happened in 1993, let's first understand the backdrop of U.S. penny production during that era, which is crucial in understanding how a coin that was minted by the millions each day could have produced such an unexpected anomaly that ended up being worth more than many luxury homes, sports cars, or even pieces of fine art. Because in 1993 the United States Mint was producing Lincoln cents at a staggering pace, churning out coins from multiple facilities including the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint, with the occasional contribution from the San Francisco Mint mainly for proof coins, and these coins were part of the standard issue Lincoln Memorial design that had been in circulation since 1959, which featured the profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. And this design was incredibly familiar to Americans and had been so for decades, which is part of what makes the discovery of a massively flawed and error-laden penny from this year so intriguing and unexpected, because when you think about mint errors, you might think of small imperfections like a slightly off-center strike or a faint doubling of the date, but the 1993 penny that sold for millions was a masterclass in minting mistakes, showcasing a range of errors so rare and so extreme that they caught the attention of serious collectors, error specialists, and historians alike, all of whom were eager to understand exactly how such a flawed specimen could have been produced, survived quality control, made its way into circulation or a private collection, and eventually came to be auctioned for such a mind-numbing price. And it's important to point out that minting errors happen for a variety of reasons, including die clashes, planchet issues, incorrect alloy composition, misaligned dies, doubled dies, wrong planchet strikes, off-center strikes, broad strikes, and more. But in the case of the legendary 1993 penny, it wasn't just one of these errors that made it valuable. It was a rare and almost cosmic alignment of several such errors happening on a single coin, and according to collectors and experts who have examined it in great detail, this particular coin exhibits a rare double strike where the coin was struck twice by the minting press but not in perfect alignment, creating a ghost-like image on the obverse where Lincoln's bust appears to have a shadowed duplicate slightly offset from the original, which in itself would be enough to fetch significant money on the market. But it doesn't stop there, because the reverse side also shows a misalignment, and even more stunningly, the coin was struck on a bronze planchet, which is remarkable since the U.S. Mint had officially switched from bronze to zinc-based planchets in 1982 to save on material costs. And finding a post-1982 cent made of bronze is like discovering a time traveler in the middle of a modern city, and this planchet anomaly alone makes the coin exceedingly rare, because it likely means that an old bronze blank from years prior was accidentally mixed in with the newer stock, and somehow went unnoticed by mint personnel and machinery, resulting in a completely unauthorized and unintended coin composition. And that's not all, because additional analysis revealed that the coin's date and mint mark show signs of doubling, which is referred to as a double die error and is one of the most coveted types of mint errors because it indicates a flaw in the die-making process itself rather than a strike-time issue. And in this case, the doubling was clear and crisp enough to be recognized even without magnification, which is incredibly rare for any doubled die specimen, let alone one from the 1990s. And if that weren't enough to raise eyebrows, the surfaces of the coin show unusual texture and coloration inconsistent with normal minting, suggesting the possibility of a die cap error or even contamination in the plating process, which would have created unusual bonding between the layers of the coin, adding to its mystique and potential uniqueness. And the accumulation of all these errors in one single specimen is something that even seasoned numismatists find hard to believe, because while individual examples of each of these errors can be found and are sometimes even common depending on the year and mint, finding them all together on a single coin is like finding a four-leaf clover made of gold sitting atop a winning lottery ticket, and as such, when this coin was first identified and authenticated by top-tier grading organizations, it immediately caused a buzz throughout the collector community, with auction houses lining up for the chance to offer it, and wealthy collectors from around the world expressing interest. And the eventual sale of the coin for $12 million wasn't just a reflection of its error-based value but also of its extreme rarity, the story behind it. The fact that no other known example has ever come to light, and the general trend of high-net-worth individuals looking to diversify their assets into tangible collectibles, particularly ones with historical significance, which coins undoubtedly have, and to fully appreciate the astronomical value of this penny, one has to also consider the speculative aspect of numismatics, where provenance, narrative, uniqueness, and demand all combine to create a perfect storm for sky-high valuations, and it's worth noting that the coin's value was also bolstered by the fact that it was discovered in nearly pristine condition with minimal wear, indicating that it likely never saw much circulation, if any, and that its unique characteristics were preserved by a very fortunate chain of custody over the decades. And for those wondering whether they might stumble upon a similar coin in their change jar or coin roll hunting expeditions, the odds are astronomically low but not zero, and that's part of what keeps the coin collecting hobby alive and thriving, the idea that hidden treasures still exist, that extraordinary value might be hiding in plain sight, and that sometimes the most humble objects can hold the most extraordinary secrets. And while it's easy to dismiss such a story as an outlier or a one-time fluke, history shows us that mistakes at the mint have happened before and will happen again. Though the chances of so many rare errors combining into a single coin in a single year and escaping the rigorous scrutiny of modern minting controls are incredibly small, and yet the 1993 $12 million penny stands as living, or rather minted, proof that it is not impossible, and for the lucky owner of this piece of numismatic magic, it represents not only a remarkable financial windfall but also a unique connection to the hidden intricacies of American coinage history, where even the tiniest mistakes can lead to legendary discoveries. So whether you're a seasoned coin hunter or just someone fascinated by the stories behind the money we use every day, this tale of the 1993 1-cent coin serves as a thrilling reminder that sometimes the smallest details hold the greatest value, and that hidden among the billions of coins in circulation there may yet lie another penny waiting to surprise the world. And if the story of the 1993 1-cent fetching $12 million left you in awe, then get ready, because lightning, as rare as it may be, can strike more than once, and in the numismatic world, that truth was proven again when a 1999 1-cent coin, yes, another humble penny, sold for an eye-watering $9 million due to a completely different yet equally mind-boggling set of circumstances, minting errors, and historical anomalies that combined to turn what was supposed to be an ordinary coin into a jaw-dropping rarity. And this 1999 penny, often referred to in elite collecting circles as a phantom mule, earned its fortune not simply due to one error but rather a perfect storm of irregularities that collectively elevated its status to near mythical among those who understand just how unlikely such a coin should even exist. Because let's start with the most jaw-dropping error associated with this coin. It is what's known as a mule error. And if you've never heard of that term before, let us explain. It's when a coin is struck with obverse and reverse dies that were never meant to be paired together, a mistake so rare that only a tiny handful of mule errors have ever been documented in United States coinage history. And in the case of this 1999 cent, the coin was struck using the obverse die of a Lincoln cent, showing Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, but incredibly, the reverse side shows not the Lincoln Memorial as it should, but rather the design from the Roosevelt dime, featuring the torch, olive branch, and oak branch, a completely incompatible match of coin faces from two entirely different denominations, And experts believe that this happened because of a mix-up at the Philadelphia Mint where dies from different production lines were accidentally inserted into the wrong press, a seemingly impossible error given the stringent controls and verification steps involved in the minting process. Yet somehow this cent-dime hybrid made it through the entire cycle and found its way into the world, an event so statistically improbable that the known population of such coins remains at just one single authenticated example, and aside from the sheer novelty of having a penny with a dime's reverse, which is shocking enough, the coin exhibits a number of other intriguing traits, such as being struck on a cent-sized copper-plated zinc planchet as expected. But the die intended for the dime was never meant to hit that metal type, and this incompatibility created slightly unusual metal flow and striking pressure indicators around the edges of the coin, particularly noticeable under high magnification where the rim shows faint signs of being slightly raised in a non-uniform manner, and the alignment between the obverse and reverse was near perfect, meaning it was not an off-center or misaligned strike. Which makes the mule error all the more perplexing because it was clearly struck with precision despite using mismatched dies, a situation akin to printing the front of a dollar bill and the back of a $5 bill on a single note, and when this coin was first discovered, it understandably caused a frenzy in the numismatic community, with many initially thinking it was either a fabrication, a magician's coin, or some sort of post-mint alteration, but upon intense scrutiny by top-tier grading agencies and specialists in error coins, it was confirmed to be 100% genuine and minted at the Philadelphia Mint in 1999. And as you can imagine, once that authentication came through, the value of the coin skyrocketed because not only was it a one-of-a-kind US mule error, but it also came from a year that didn't have any particularly noteworthy cent-related issues, which made the presence of such a dramatic error even more astounding. And as word of the coin spread, major collectors and institutions began to take interest, particularly those who focus on oddities, unique specimens, or U.S. mint errors, and when it finally went to auction, a fierce bidding war broke out between several deep-pocketed bidders who understood that this wasn't just a valuable coin, it was a historic artifact that would likely never be duplicated, and after a flurry of competitive offers, the gavel finally fell at $9 million, making this 1999 mule penny one of the highest-priced error coins ever sold. Second only to a few legendary rarities such as the 1933 St. Gaudens Double Eagle, or the 1794 Flowing Hair Silver Dollar, and to this day, no other 1999 cent dime mule has been found, and if another one ever does surface, it too could command an astronomical price. But what makes this single known example even more compelling is the pristine state in which it was preserved, graded at a near-flawless mint state level. It displays incredible sharpness in both design elements and luster, with minimal contact marks and impeccable strike clarity, suggesting it was likely spotted very early in its life and set aside by someone who immediately knew it was something extraordinary, and that intuition, whether by accident or awareness, preserved one of the most unique numismatic treasures in modern times. And as we piece together the story of how such a bizarre coin came into existence, we're reminded once again that the U.S. Mint, for all its automation and oversight, is still operated by humans and susceptible to momentary lapses in procedure, and these lapses, while usually caught quickly and corrected, occasionally give birth to pieces of metal that defy convention and become instant legends, and for collectors, dealers, historians, and even casual hobbyists, the existence of such a coin reignites that eternal hope that something just as strange, rare, and valuable might one day fall into their hands, whether it's through change received at a store, a forgotten jar of coins from a relative, or a lucky find during a coin roll hunt. And while the chances are slim, the payoff, if one were to ever stumble upon another mule error like this 1999 cent, is life-changing, not just financially but in terms of being part of numismatic lore, because owning a coin like this isn't just about the money. It's about possessing a tangible piece of minting history that tells a story of error, anomaly, and discovery. And as we look back on the incredible journey of this one-of-a-kind 1999 penny that crossed all logical boundaries and wound up commanding millions, it serves as yet another testament to the unpredictable beauty of coin collecting, where even the smallest, most overlooked denomination has the power to change lives and challenge our expectations of what value truly means. And when we look at both the 1993 and 1999 1-cent coins side by side, these extraordinary stories begin to reflect something far deeper than just shocking auction prices or minting flukes. They represent the incredible convergence of human oversight, mechanical unpredictability, historical transitions, and pure luck, all encased within two of the smallest, most overlooked pieces of metal ever produced by the U.S. Mint. And what ties these two jaw-dropping coins together is not just the staggering values they ultimately achieved, $12 million for the 1993 penny and $9 million for the 1999 mule cent, but the way they challenge the very notion of what a penny can be, and how seemingly worthless objects that pass through our hands every day can hold untold potential if only we learn how to look more closely, to question the ordinary, and to understand the intricate dance of error and design that plays out behind the scenes at the Mint. And in the case of the 1993 penny, we see a coin whose immense value came from the stacking of multiple rare errors, being struck on an outdated bronze planchet, showcasing a powerful doubled die, featuring alignment issues, ghost-like strike doubling, and signs of plating or bonding imperfections, all of which combine to create a once-in-a-lifetime specimen that never should have existed, yet somehow escaped into the world. And similarly, the 1999 cent achieved its mythic status through an entirely different route, one of impossible pairing, a true mule error that saw a cent obverse mated with a dime reverse, creating a Frankenstein coin whose very existence breaks the structural rules of the minting process and leaves experts wondering how such a catastrophic mismatch could have slipped past numerous layers of inspection. And while the paths to rarity were different, what these coins have in common is the way they awaken our sense of possibility, making us realize that in a world dominated by precision and mass production, genuine uniqueness can still emerge, not because it was planned, but precisely because it wasn't. And that paradox is what makes these coins so coveted, so talked about, so worthy of their incredible price tags, because they're not only marvels of numismatic rarity but living reminders of the flaws in human and machine processes. And when those flaws are captured, preserved, and authenticated, they transcend the value of their materials and take on cultural and historical weight that turns them into million-dollar artifacts. And these coins are more than financial instruments. They are time capsules, encapsulating a specific moment when something went wrong in just the right way to produce a masterpiece of unintended design. And they now sit at the crossroads of economics, history, artistry, and mystery. And to the dedicated numismatists who pore over rolls of coins, search auction listings, and study mint records with the enthusiasm of treasure hunters, these two pennies are like holy grails, encouraging them to keep looking, keep researching, keep believing that another legendary find might be hiding in plain sight. And from a technical perspective, both coins also offer fascinating insight into the manufacturing practices and transitions of the U.S. Mint during the 1990s. A decade that saw material changes, design updates, and a shift toward greater automation. And while these improvements were intended to reduce human error, they clearly didn't eliminate it, and the occasional coin that sneaks past the checks and balances often tells us more about how the Mint operates than any official report or press release ever could. And these two coins, one a multifaceted error showcasing multiple anomalies that each tell a story, the other a mechanical and procedural impossibility that somehow exists, stand as milestones in American coinage and have helped redefine what collectors look for, what grading agencies prioritize, and what auction houses are willing to promote. And the ripples of these coins' discoveries are still felt today, inspiring documentaries, articles, social media buzz, and even sparking renewed interest among younger generations who now take up the hobby not just to complete sets, but in hopes of uncovering that one elusive piece that defies all odds. And perhaps what is most fascinating is how ordinary these coins might have seemed at first glance. After all, to the untrained eye, the 1993 penny might have looked like a damaged or slightly misaligned strike, and the 1999 mule might have been assumed to be a novelty or tampered token. But that's what makes numismatics so rewarding. The idea that buried beneath layers of normalcy can lie stories of unimaginable value, and it brings a poetic justice to the world of collecting that the smallest coin, the coin we often discard, ignore, or leave at the bottom of a drawer, could turn out to be the most valuable object in an entire collection. And as we reflect on the tales of these two pennies, one can't help but feel a sense of awe for the sheer improbability of their creation and the journey they undertook from mint machinery to $1,000,000 spotlight. And for every coin collector, enthusiast, historian, or even curious observer, these stories serve as powerful reminders that within the mundane lies the potential for the extraordinary. And in the world of coins, where every strike counts, and every anomaly tells a story, the 1993 and 1999 1-cent coins stand forever as testaments to the incredible power of error, the enduring mystery of chance, and the priceless beauty of imperfection. And when we delve even deeper into the significance of the 1993 and 1999 1-cent coins, we begin to unravel not just tales of mechanical fluke or collectible fortune, but narratives that tap into the very heart of what drives humanity's obsession with rarity, chance, and value creation, because what these two coins really represent, beyond their $1,000,000 price tags and the technical oddities that define them, is the broader philosophical question of how we assign worth to objects, how mistakes become masterpieces, and how stories transform simple materials into symbols of history, economics, and culture. And with the 1993 penny, it becomes increasingly apparent that its layered errors didn't just make it valuable in isolation but formed a symphony of minting missteps that together create a truly singular identity, with each detail, whether it be the unauthorized bronze planchet, the precise double die on the date, the slight off-center strike, or the unusual surface anomalies, contributing to a perfect storm of uniqueness. And it's this convergence of multiple independent factors that elevates the coin from a minting curiosity to a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. And similarly, the 1999 mule cent doesn't just defy expectations because of its mismatched dies but because it managed to be struck so cleanly, preserved so perfectly, and authenticated so definitively in a minting ecosystem that was by then significantly modernized, which makes its existence all the more mysterious. And together these two coins challenge the notion that error is synonymous with failure, instead proving that in the world of numismatics, error often equals opportunity. Because there's an ironic beauty to the fact that coins intended to be flawless, uniform, and indistinguishable from millions of others find their value precisely when they diverge from that sameness. And in a society that often celebrates perfection, these coins stand as rare reminders that flaw, deviation, and unpredictability are not only tolerable, they're sometimes the very qualities that create immeasurable worth. And when collectors gather at shows, conventions, or auctions and the conversations turn to the most astonishing finds in U.S. coinage, the 1993 and 1999 cents inevitably rise to the top not only because of their record-breaking sales but because of the intrigue they generate. The way they capture the imagination and keep alive the hope that somewhere out there, in a forgotten piggy bank or tucked between sofa cushions, another miraculous coin might be waiting to be found, and this sense of possibility is what sustains the hobby and gives rise to new generations of coin hunters, historians, and researchers who view each new roll of pennies not as an obstacle but as a potential goldmine. And when you study these coins under magnification, you begin to appreciate the granular details that contribute to their legend, the way Lincoln's eye appears doubled on the 1993 cent, the almost ghostly echo of the original strike, the tactile shift in texture where a foreign alloy resists the uniformity of mass production, or in the case of the 1999 mule, the bizarre beauty of a Roosevelt torch blooming where the Lincoln Memorial should stand. And each of these features, while perhaps imperceptible to the casual observer, holds the key to unlocking the immense value of these coins. Because it is precisely in the margins, the overlooked spaces, the deviations from the norm, where greatness resides in this field, and the passion of those who dedicate their lives to understanding such intricacies cannot be overstated. These are people who pore over reference books, die charts, mint logs, and error catalogs, who share their findings in forums, journals, and presentations, who spend hours comparing coins under microscopes just to identify a subtle doubling or trace anomaly. And it is thanks to this community that the stories of the 1993 and 1999 pennies were preserved, documented, and ultimately recognized for what they truly are, miraculous survivors of systems designed to eliminate variance. And while we can admire these coins for their technical features, their financial impact, and their collector appeal, we must also view them as symbols of how imperfection, when rare, dramatic, and well preserved, becomes a new kind of perfection. A new standard by which greatness is measured in the numismatic world, and as these coins continue to change hands among high profile collectors, institutions, and investors, their value will only increase over time, not just because they are rare but because they represent a piece of American minting history that simply cannot be recreated. And this finality, this uniqueness, this irreplaceable status is what elevates them into the pantheon of legendary collectibles, and for every viewer tuning in, perhaps the most exciting takeaway is not just the amazement of these discoveries, but the hope and realization that such treasures still exist, that history isn't confined to museums but may very well be hiding in your loose change, your old coin jar, or that dusty box of pocket contents from a generation ago. And with that realization comes an open invitation to pay attention, to look closer, to learn more, because in the world of numismatics, fortune doesn't always announce itself in gold and glitter. Sometimes it whispers from a humble penny, and when that whisper is heard by someone who knows how to listen, it can echo through history, transforming a 1-cent coin into a multi-million-dollar legend.